Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. In this video, we will explore a very special and profound topic. Jesus showed me the qualities that Satan cannot imitate in true Christians. These qualities will surely make you reflect on unconditional love, self-sacrifice, and loyalty, which we can learn from Christ, and how these qualities can help us live a more authentic and meaningful life. Stay tuned to gain a deeper understanding of these valuable lessons. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comment section below. The cold winter had descended upon the small town of St. Helena, a quiet and peaceful place now shrouded in a dense fog that made the street lamps glow faintly in the misty air. The once lively streets, usually filled with the sound of children's laughter, now lay still, silent except for the whisper of the wind blowing through the bare branches of the trees. The sky was an overcast grey, and the old buildings lining the streets stood unmoving, reflecting the loneliness and sadness that seemed to hang in the air. Evelyn, a woman in her 30s, hurried down the deserted road. After a long day at the hospital, her body was exhausted, but it was her mind that weighed heavier with every step. A passionate nurse, she had always poured her heart into caring for her patients, but recently, she felt as if her life had come to a standstill. The challenges at work, the strains in her family life, and the unexplainable thoughts racing through her mind left her feeling drained and overwhelmed. All day, she had witnessed heartbreaking scenes from patients whose conditions seemed beyond hope to families who seemed to be losing all sense of hope. Every time she looked into the fearful, pleading eyes of a patient, she felt a pain she couldn't describe, an overwhelming sense of helplessness that gripped her heart. Returning home, all she wanted was to collapse into bed and forget the world, but the truth was, the more she tried to escape, the more she felt lost in her own life. She wasn't sure which direction she was heading anymore, and the dreams she once held dear seemed to fade away into the darkness of challenges that never seemed to end. That night, as Evelyn walked through the door of her small home, she was immediately struck by the emptiness that filled the space. Once, this home had been full of the laughter of her family, but now it was quiet, with only the walls standing as silent witnesses to the past. Family life wasn't any better. The strain between her and her husband had grown over time, caused by the invisible pressures of work and unresolved conflicts. She felt like she was walking a path without an end, each step becoming more difficult, each day feeling heavier than the last. One night, after Evelyn returned home, feeling exhausted and burdened by the weight of her work and life, she lay down on her bed. Her eyes were heavy, but sleep refused to come. Her mind was filled with worries and anxieties that seemed to have taken hold of her. Soon after, she found herself slipping into a trance-like state, and a strange dream began to unfold. In the dream, she found herself standing on a vast beach. The sand beneath her feet was soft, and the gentle waves of the ocean lapped at the shore, producing a soothing melody. The sky above her was radiant, not with the blinding light of the sun, but with a magical glow, streaks of deep blue and shimmering gold that spread across the sky, creating a mesmerizing and beautiful scene. The colors of the sky blended with the light of the dawn, and Evelyn felt as though she was in another world, a place filled with serenity and peace. As she stood there, a strange sensation began to rise within her, as if the burdens of her life had simply vanished. Suddenly, from afar, she saw a figure emerging. It moved toward her, becoming clearer with each passing moment. A man, dressed in a pure white robe, his face shining brightly as if he was the very source of the light. His eyes exuded an overwhelming kindness and love, a gaze that seemed to ease away all fears and worries. Evelyn felt her heart lighten, as if a wave of calm was washing over her. As the man drew closer, Evelyn realized, with no doubt, that this was none other than Jesus Christ. She could feel his presence, a light that enveloped her, making everything around her fade into the background. Each step he took seemed to bring with it a comfort beyond words, and as he looked into her eyes, Evelyn felt as though he understood all of her pain and struggles. The man in the white robe smiled gently at her, a smile full of power and gentleness, as though he could soothe all the suffering in the world. And when Jesus Christ gazed into her eyes, Evelyn felt surrounded by an endless love and peace, a feeling beyond anything she had ever known. She felt the tenderness of his gaze, the comfort in his every gesture, as though he was silently telling her that everything would be all right, and that she would never face her challenges alone again. Hello, Evelyn. I've been waiting for you for a long time. His voice rang out warmly, like gentle waves softly crashing against the shore, bringing Evelyn an unusual sense of peace. When she heard those words, Evelyn couldn't find the right words to describe her emotions. She stood there, feeling every beat of her heart, part of her wondering if she was dreaming, but the other part knowing this was too real, too profound to be just a dream. Jesus stood before her, his gentle light illuminating the space around them, filling the atmosphere with love and tranquility. His gaze pierced deep into Evelyn's heart, as though he understood all the worries and struggles she had been carrying. Evelyn felt a warmth spread through her soul, as if all the pain and guilt were fading away, replaced with a new sense of hope, a firm belief. Have you ever wondered what makes true Christians different from the world? Jesus asked, his voice full of patience and love. Evelyn stood silently, unable to respond. She felt there was an answer, but the words couldn't form, as her heart was too full of emotions, too many questions without answers. I don't understand, Lord, she said after a long pause, her voice wavering but sincere. She truly didn't understand, as she had lived in a world filled with selfishness, deceit, and greed. She couldn't imagine a love that was unconditional, a love that had no doubt, a love that could last forever and transcend all trials. Jesus smiled gently, his face glowing brighter, radiating a light that filled the mysterious space. He spoke again, his eyes sparkling with wisdom that Evelyn had never seen before. There is one thing that Satan cannot imitate, Evelyn, he said, his voice both majestic and full of tenderness. That is true love and selfless sacrifice. Evelyn looked up at Jesus, feeling his words gradually sinking deep into her mind. True followers of mine are not only those who believe in my words but also those who live according to true love and sacrifice, a love that cannot be destroyed, with no doubt or deception. It is not a fleeting emotion, but a lifetime commitment. It is the willingness to give to others, even without receiving anything in return, even when facing hardship and pain. He paused for a moment, allowing Evelyn to absorb his words more deeply. Do you know, the love that Satan cannot imitate is a love that seeks no personal gain. It is the love of sacrifice, the giving without expecting, no conditions, no binds. That love surpasses all pain and trials. It is an invisible power, a power that only true Christians can convey and share. And that, Evelyn, is the difference, the mark of those who follow me, the greatness that Satan cannot imitate. Evelyn stood there, her heart overflowing with an infinite light. She realized that the love Jesus was speaking of was not just an ordinary affection, but a divine love, a love that could change the world. She felt the power in every word he spoke, as if they were soaking into her soul, awakening a part of her heart she didn't even know existed. I can feel a strange lightness surrounding me, Evelyn thought to herself, as if all her pain and worries were melting away in that warm light. She could feel a profound peace within her soul, as if all the burdens she had been carrying were being lifted. She stood there, in this space filled with love and unconditional protection. This feeling was hard to describe, like she was stepping into a new world, a world where all the temporary and painful things were erased, leaving only eternal peace. The light from Jesus radiated around them, gentle and soft like the waves caressing the shore. Evelyn looked up, her eyes filled with admiration, an admiration she had never felt for anyone before. In that moment, she felt that he was not just a teacher, but also a close friend, a father, a protector, and above all, an infinite source of strength she had always longed for. But how can I live like that? Evelyn asked, her voice tinged with hesitation but filled with curiosity. Her heart was brimming with the search for answers, like a child eager to understand a great secret, a secret that could change her life. She wanted to live as he had taught, but she didn't know where to begin. Jesus smiled gently, his light not only illuminating the space around them but also seeming to seep into every cell of her body. Only when you completely let go of your ego, when you give without expecting anything in return, will you feel that power, he said, his voice soft but full of understanding. That is the quality Satan cannot imitate. Because true sacrifice is something that the wicked cannot comprehend. Evelyn was silent, the words he spoke felt like cool streams of water flowing into her heart. She had tried so many times in her life to find happiness, but all she received were disappointments and a sense of emptiness. Relationships, commitments, they all seemed to lack something that she now began to realize was true love, unconditional sacrifice. Jesus continued, his gaze seeming to penetrate her mind, helping her see things she had never seen before. Satan cannot imitate this sacrifice, because he does not know true love. He only knows exploitation, he only knows to seek his own benefit. His love is conditional, it is based on the ego, on pride and selfishness. But my love is unconditional. It asks for nothing, it simply gives without expecting anything in return. He paused for a moment, allowing Evelyn to reflect on his words. She felt as if his words were sinking deep into her soul, as though they were gradually freeing her from the burdens she had carried for years. The moment Evelyn awoke from the dream, she felt her heart warm and filled with hope. That dream was not just a miraculous experience, but a profound shift in her thoughts and perspectives. She began to realize that, in her life, she had not truly lived with unconditional love. She had been so focused on pleasing others, seeking approval from the world around her, that she had forgotten to believe in herself, in the goodness of life. Since that day, magical adventures began unfolding in Evelyn's life. She didn't just become a woman filled with love and sacrifice, but strange events also started happening around her. One autumn evening, as the cold breeze began to sweep through the city of St. Helena, Evelyn decided to take a walk to unwind after a long day at work. She walked through the quiet streets, the warm lights from the windows reflecting off the wet pavement. The cool air filled her lungs, helping her feel alert and relaxed. As she passed a deserted alleyway, she suddenly felt a strange sensation. A figure emerged from the darkness, a man in a black suit, pale skin, and eyes filled with darkness. As he approached, Evelyn could feel a coldness emanating from him, as if the air around her had suddenly become suffocating. The man stared at her with eyes so deep and dark, it felt as though they were endless abysses. "Did you know?" His voice was cold and threatening, as if no trace of humanity lingered in it. "What you think is true love is nothing but naivety. You cannot live in this world without accepting the evil and darkness that exists." Evelyn felt a vague fear creeping into her heart, but she did not step back. The words of Jesus still echoed in her mind, and she felt a strange strength rising within her. She didn't respond right away, but the light in her heart began to shine brightly, as if silently declaring, "I will not let these words shake my faith. I believe in true love, and I will not let darkness win." The man stared at her with sharp eyes, as if trying to find a weakness in her. But Evelyn stood there, firm, not intending to back down. She realized that what he said was just a part of the dark world he represented, and she no longer belonged to it. She had been transformed, elevated by unconditional love, by the power of believing in something better. Evelyn felt her heart race, a vague sense of fear creeping into her chest as she faced the strange man. But strangely, alongside that fear, there was also a sense of peace, as though a warm wave surrounded her, bringing with it a courage and steadiness she had never felt before. She remembered the words of Jesus in her dream, the reminder of unconditional love and sacrifice, values that no evil, no darkness could ever erase. She looked into the man's deep, dark eyes that were cold and hollow, as if there were no trace of humanity in them. But Evelyn no longer felt afraid. She knew she was no longer the weak person she once was. His words were merely the echoes of fear and darkness, and she had no reason to be affected by them. Taking a deep breath, Evelyn stood tall, feeling an unexpected surge of strength rise within her. She didn't need to react to his evil, simply smiling with the peace she held inside. She spoke, her voice gentle but firm, "True love is never destroyed by evil. It will always exist, whether you want it to or not." Each word was a declaration to herself, and a soft light seemed to radiate from her, illuminating the space around her. The man stared at her, his lips curling into a sinister grin, but he didn't speak another word. He no longer had threats to offer, there was only silence now, eerie and oppressive, as though he realized his words had no power over her. A strong, undeniable sense arose within Evelyn, a certainty that the love she believed in would always prevail, even in the darkest of times. At that moment, a strong gust of wind suddenly swept through the alley, carrying with it the sound of rustling leaves. And then, in the blink of an eye, the man vanished into the darkness. There was no trace left of him, as though he had never been there at all. Evelyn stood there, still feeling the stillness within her heart, even though the air around her was cold and ominous. She no longer felt fear or confusion. A new sense of confidence, a realization that she had done what was right, that true love was the only thing that could never be defeated, filled her. She turned and continued walking, her heart light and peaceful as if nothing had ever happened. The next day, Evelyn woke up feeling different. She opened her eyes and no longer felt the exhaustion that usually greeted her every morning. A strange sense of freshness spread through every cell of her body, as if a new wave of positive energy had ignited within her. She no longer felt the heaviness of the aches and pains that used to haunt her upon waking up. The discomfort, though still present, seemed unimportant now. The pain appeared to fade, unable to break the profound peace that was filling her heart. As she got out of bed and set her feet on the cold floor, a gentle wave of tranquility spread through her, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head. Each step she took felt like a new journey, full of hope. The negative thoughts she once had about work, relationships, and life's challenges seemed to be swept away by the breeze, leaving behind a space of stillness within her soul. She could clearly feel the presence of Jesus, like a warm light surrounding her, guiding her every step. When she stepped outside, the sky lit up with the soft glow of the morning sun, as if signaling a new beginning. The distant chirping of birds and the fresh air of the spring morning only added to the lightness she felt inside. She no longer worried about the little things or the difficulties in her job or family life. Everything around her seemed calm, pleasant, and full of hope. Jesus seemed to be right beside her, offering his comforting hand and guiding her. She felt his love and reassurance in every moment of her daily life. She knew she no longer had to face challenges alone. The fears about the future, about uncertainties, now seemed small and insignificant. She knew she was living in the love and protection of God, and that was the greatest strength she could ever find in her life. But one night, as Evelyn sat in the quiet room, her hands gently holding the Bible close to her chest, the faint glow of the oil lamp barely illuminating the corner, darkness suddenly enveloped the space. A strange, cold sensation spread through the air, sending chills down her spine. Once again, the man in the black suit appeared. This time, he didn't come alone. From the depths of the shadows behind him, the ominous figures of thousands of phantoms began to materialize. Towering monstrous creatures with glowing red eyes, shimmering like fierce flames, surrounded him. The atmosphere became thick, suffocating, as if the very creatures were devouring all life around them. The man in black looked at Evelyn with eyes full of hatred and defiance. "Evelyn, do you truly think you can defeat me?" His voice rang out cold and sharp, like a blade slicing through the air, making everything in the room tremble. The surrounding creatures snarled, their eyes filled with malice, as if ready to tear apart any sense of peace. Evelyn felt a wave of fear pass through her heart, but instead of retreating, a strange calm began to rise within her. She remembered the words of Jesus, the words full of love and power he had given her in the dream, words that now echoed in her mind. She recalled them clearly: true love is never destroyed by evil. It always exists, whether you want it to or not. "No, I do not fight alone," Evelyn said, her voice firm and filled with strength. "I have the support of his light." Those words rang out with conviction, powerful and unwavering. She stood up, feeling the divine strength inside her. In an instant, a radiant light exploded from within, surrounding her like an invisible shield. The light grew stronger, filling the room and driving back the shadows. The light became brighter and brighter, causing the phantoms and monsters around her to turn away. Fear spread through them. They howled in agony, scrambling to escape the light, as if being burned by it. The man in black, once so confident and full of power, now looked horrified, his eyes filled with terror. He screamed in defeat, raising his hand in vain to resist the strength Evelyn was emitting. But all was futile. He could not overcome that boundless light, the light of love and sacrifice. In that moment, the man, along with all the phantoms and monsters, vanished, as if they had never existed. The space around Evelyn returned to peaceful tranquility, with only the warm light and the calmness of her heart remaining. She stood there, feeling the powerful presence of Jesus in every breath she took. She knew that, no matter how dark the world might get, she would always have the light to protect her. Evelyn stood in the dimly lit room, feeling the greatness of the moment, the stillness surrounding her. She knew she had just overcome a significant challenge, not by her own strength, but by her unwavering faith in Jesus Christ. The monsters, the ghosts, and even the man in black, none of them could harm her because within her was an invisible power that Satan could not touch. Love and faith in Christ. As the light she carried faded, leaving behind a space filled with tranquility, Evelyn couldn't help but reflect on the lesson she had learned. She realized that Satan could counterfeit everything, from the appearance of evil to the trials he presented, but there was one thing he could never imitate: true love. The love that Christ gives us cannot be mistaken or replaced by anything because it is unconditional love, without limits. She understood that only when a person truly opens their heart to Christ, willing to sacrifice themselves for the good of others, could they truly comprehend that love. And in that moment, Evelyn felt a deep change in her heart. She no longer feared like she once did. Despite the challenges in her work at the hospital, her family, and the difficulties life presented, she knew that as long as she held on to love and faith in Christ, she would always have the strength to overcome any obstacle. She believed that Jesus was always by her side, guiding her through every dark moment. Back in her daily life, Evelyn continued to work with a heart full of love and sacrifice. Every patient she cared for, every family she comforted, could feel the presence of the unconditional love she shared. Evelyn understood that life was not always easy, but as long as she lived with faith and love, she would never feel alone. She knew that the light of Christ would always shine for her, guiding her in moments of uncertainty, and giving her strength to face any challenge. Evelyn's life became a testament to the power of love and faith. She was a woman who no longer feared, who no longer worried about the future. Unconditional love had changed her, turning her into a part of the light, and she no longer felt alone in her battle with the darkness of the world. Evelyn became a woman who was not only strong but also an endless source of inspiration for those around her. Her heart was not just filled with love but also with the selflessness and loyalty she had learned through life's challenges. These qualities, things Satan could never imitate, gradually became part of her nature, like a shining beacon in the darkness, lighting the way for all who needed hope and faith. She not only cared for patients in the hospital with all her love and devotion but also became someone who was always willing to listen, share, and help those who needed advice or comfort. Every day, she worked with tireless passion, not for fame or recognition, but because she knew that unconditional love was the only power that could truly change lives. In every look she gave, in every smile she shared, Evelyn brought others a little of the light of Christ, a bit of hope for those who felt weary or discouraged. She began organizing small prayer groups at the hospital, where people could come to find comfort and encouragement. She shared the miraculous things she had experienced in her life, the moments that God had revealed to her, helping them realize that true love and sacrifice are never in vain. Gradually, those around her began to feel the change in their own hearts. They learned how to love unconditionally, how to live for others, and how to trust in the light even when the world around them was dark. She became a symbol of a woman who not only fought through life's struggles but also knew how to embrace sacrifice and live according to the love God had taught her. Evelyn's strength and courage didn't just come from her personal victories but from the boundless love she had for everyone. No matter how the world around her changed, Evelyn continued to walk the path that God had shown her, sharing His light with all who needed it. Thank you for watching today's video. The story of the qualities that Jesus showed Evelyn, qualities that Satan cannot imitate in true Christians, has surely given you much to reflect on. These qualities are not only unconditional love, sacrifice, and loyalty, but also a spiritual strength that only those who truly live in the light of Christ can understand and practice. I hope this story will inspire you and help you realize that love and faith in Christ are the keys to overcoming all challenges. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you, and see you in the next video.